Oahu. Hope you're doing okay. Here is today the next part of the reading of Beowulf. So if you look back on YouTube, if you haven't already, Denise has read the first section, which was pages 13 to 18, and now I'm going to read pages 19 to 23, which you're welcome to read in your own copy of the book, which you've all got now. Otherwise, if you'd rather listen, then feel free to follow this. Anybody from any other classes at the Stable School, please feel free to join in and listen to the story or read the story using these videos. Okay, let's go. The night Grendel struck was the darkest night of all. He waited until Hrothgar had gone to his bed, until only the lords who nightly guarded Heorot were left. They were fast asleep when he pounced. He was upon them so suddenly and with such violence and fury that none could escape the terrible slaughter. 30 lords he murdered in his bloodlust, as savage and swift in his death-dealing as a maddened fox in a chicken hut. He left not one of them alive, but carried them off home to his lair to feast on their blooded corpses at his leisure. Only when day broke did Hrothgar and his warriors discover the dreadful evidence of the Holocaust at Heorot. Gone now were the laughter and the music. Hrothgar sat silent in his grief and despair. His warriors too mourned and lamented the loss of their friends and brothers in arms. All were stunned at the merciless cruelty of this fatal fiend of the darkness. But the horrors were not yet over, for the next night Grendel came again, stalking over the foggy moors and down through the forests towards Heorot. The warriors had barricaded themselves in this time and believed they must be safe. They could not have known that against this hellish monster all such defences would be useless. In a frenzy of hate, Grendel burst in and slaughtered everyone he found there, gorging himself at will. He spared no one. From that night on, no one, not even Hrothgar, dared sleep again in Heorot. And so the great mead hall stood empty, and stayed empty. Grendel the monster now ruled in Denmark, a rule of terror that haunted Hrothgar and all his people. Wherever they lived, men, women and children alike. For 12 long winters Grendel warred unceasingly on the Danes, picking his blood victims at random, the innocent and the sick too, children and newborn babes. He was utterly without mercy. Again and again he came to his killing ground, always unseen in the black of the night. No plan Hrothgar and the council thanes devised could protect them from his fury. No prayers to the Almighty, no sacrifices to ancient heathen gods. Anywhere he struck, any farmstead, any cottage, anywhere and everywhere, nothing could put an end to these endless terror raids. A great and terrible grief darkened the land, banishing all happiness, all hope. Even the noble Hrothgar sat sunk in sorrow. Deep in his despair, the Danish king could see no reprieve from this hideous nightmare visited so often upon his people by this fearful monster. By now the story of this dreadful tragedy, of the nightly suffering Hrothgar and his people were enduring, had spread far and wide. They had heard about it too across the water, in the land of Helac of the Geats. For a long time, faithful allies of the Danish kingdom. But only one of them, the greatest and bravest of all princes, Beowulf he was called, decided this evil beast of the night must be punished for all his wrongdoing, that Heorot must be cleansed of this wickedness and Hrothgar and his people saved at last, even if Beowulf had to give his own life to achieve it. Okay, so as I was reading through there, you'll have seen some questions in blue, which are these here on each of the pages. So to answer them, if you go back through the video and find the pages that they match with, it will help you out to retrieve that information. So from page 19, can you describe what it would have looked like inside his lair? So firstly, before the attack, and then after the attack. And then over there, page 20, what words does the author use to make this feel like a horrible and grisly part of the story? It is pretty terrifying, isn't it? It's very bloodthirsty. Page 21. What does it mean by ward unceasingly? So you might need to look up those words. What does this tell you about Grendel's character? And then page 22. What do you think the Danish king should do? What would you do if you were the Danish king? How would you react to that? And page 23. How do you think Beowulf will try to defeat Grendel? So when we read stories, we see there's a sequence of events, of actions that happen. Now, events in a story happen in order. First, next, then, last. Those are the sorts of words that you might use when you are retelling a story. Or words such as beginning, the middle, and the end. Now, it'd be great if you would like to have a go at some of these tasks. So number one is using what we have already read, where we've got up to. Write your own list sequencing what has happened so far in the story. You could do this as a bullet points of the main actions, the main events, and you could start some of those bullet points with words such as first, next, then, lastly. Number two, look at the poster, which is going to come up next in the video, and see if you can answer the questions. I'll read that through in just a moment. Number three, draw or write a description of what the Mead Hall may have looked like after one of Grendel's visits. Okay, moving slightly away from our story, here is an actual poster from an event that took place in 2017. I'm not sure if it's an annual event, not this year perhaps, called Dragon Fest. And at the bottom you'll see it says celebrating all things dragon, from folklore to dinosaurs, a great day out for all the family. And if you would like to, here are some questions to see how you can pull information from a piece of non-fiction. So an information text. And the first one is, can you retrieve this information? How long is the festival on for each day? Number two, which is interpreting the information that you are reading. How do you think visitors to the festival feel? How can you tell? Is there any clues on that poster, either written clues or picture clues that would help you answer that question? And thirdly, it's about your opinion. How does the flyer, how does this poster make you want to visit the festival? Maybe you don't want to visit, but what the person who came up with this, the marketing person who was given the job of advertising this festival and designing a poster, what tricks have they used, what skills have they used to try and make it look as appealing as possible to get as many visitors as possible?